I love when these crazy things happen and we have to react to them right away. These post shows, you don't get the benefit of 2 nights sleep. You don't get the benefit of 48 hours to react to it. You have to react to it within seconds. So Chuck, take it away. We just
Oh
saw
my God.
Connecticut's own Alex Pereira get knocked out cold in the second round by Israel Adesanya. Your immediate reaction?
Dude, this is just one of those things that I think when we were watching the walkouts and we're like, this just feels bad. We were talking about this like this is a continuation. You think about the mental hurdle. I think that's really the thing that plays over this, the mental hurdle of going against the guy who has already beat you 3 times. And I think I was definitely, swinging my vote or my pick over to Pereira until they got in the cage and they started to stare at each other. Did you see those stare downs, the way that they were just not taking their eyes off each other and the whole thing, that tension? It was so crazy, man. I mean, it's on a night when they're putting Robbie Lawler and McDonald into the Hall of Fame for the fight wing. That fourth or what after that fourth round, that stare down that they had. This stare down was in advance. It just, the way they stared at each other was just so amazing, man. It was so apropos of this moment. I was still going back and forth, but the way the fight was going, it felt actually like Pereira was doing a better job than he did previously. Like that any intimidation factor was gone, and to just get taken out, erased in that way, because that's the most definitive way you can do it, to get knocked out. For Izzy to come up with that right hand and leave no doubt, to just send him down that way, it just doesn't. I mean, you get rare moments like this, but guys who are supposed to be transcendent at some point need to be transcendent, right? Like they have to be transcendent of the circumstance, the whatever the adversity is that they're facing, and he just did that. If there's any question of him being a star or what his qualities, and it's not just the knockout, it's not just the mental hurdle, it is that post-fight speech, him looking dead in the camera and saying that he hopes everybody can have that feeling once in their life. I mean, that's just incredible stuff, isn't it, man? I mean, this whole thing was pretty incredible.
One of my favorite post-fight speeches of all time, asking Rogan in his ear, can I have the mic just this one time, and saying, I wish that everyone in here can feel what I'm feeling right now. And the only way, I'm paraphrasing here, that you could feel this is if you go for it, if you take a risk. Golly, it spoke to me. I was getting emotional just watching that. And PT, I know that you've covered him for a very long time. I know Eugene. You had a fantastic conversation with Eugene Behrman earlier this week on The Crack. Your immediate thoughts, seeing what we just saw from Izzy after seeing what happened to him 5 months ago at Madison Square Garden.
Even never mind what happened in Madison Square Garden. Look what happened tonight. Pereira goes back to his corner after the first round and says, everything's going exactly the way I want it to go. I'm landing a leg kick. He's hurt by it. Then a graphic pops up on the screen midway through the second round saying he's broken his personal best record for landing leg kicks in a fight. Immediately after that, Izzy has a massive reaction to a calf kick. 30 seconds later, Pereira's asleep on the ground. I mean, it's just an incredible situation that unraveled there in front of us. And what's crazy about that is, when you look back in the first fight, although it was closely contested as well, Izzy was winning that fight up until the fifth when he got KO'd. Incredible to see him overcome this kind of boogeyman he had leering over him for so long. And really, I think they just had to, when I think back on that interview you referenced there with Eugene, I even said to you guys, after I spoke to Eugene, I nearly was going to pick Pereira, and I had been picking Israel. And I think one of the big reasons they had success in this camp is they kind of put ego to the side and they said, look at what this guy can do. This guy is incredible. We may have never seen a guy like this before. We can't do this like any other camp. We have to prepare and prepare again for this guy who we can't shake, the thorn in our side, the stone in our shoe. And he's managed to do it there. Incredible scenes.
Oh my God. And again, we talk about this all the time, but oh my gosh, to come back 5 months later, look at how Usman looked against Leon Edwards. Historically, when you lose and when you get knocked out, you come back a more tentative version of yourself. Izzy was telling us all week, fuck the belt, I'm coming for his head. And let's be honest, a lot of people were probably rolling their eyes and being like, no, we're going to see the Jared Cannonier version. We're going to see the Counter-Strike version. You're not coming for anything. You haven't come for anyone's head in a long time. By the way, he almost went for his head in the first round, which has been somewhat forgotten of that fight back in November. And I think a lot of people didn't believe him. But he went for it. He was aggressive, man. He was aggressive in the walkout, which seemed a little bit uncharacteristic. Even the song that he chose to walk out to seemed uncharacteristic. He walked out with the dog collar and he freaking went for it in a similar fashion that he did in that first round back at Madison Square Garden. I can't imagine what he had to overcome to get to this point and to look the way in which he looked, and to convince himself that he can do this against a guy who beat him 3 times before, by the way, just for the record. All 3 judges, Derek Cleary, Sal D'Amato, Christopher Lee, all had it 10-9 for Izzy in the first. I thought it was super close because of the leg kicks. I believe PT had it for Izzy. I was leaning towards Pereira. But again, Chuck, man, this sport is a lot more interesting with guys like Izzy on top. And this is no knock on Pereira. And we're going to talk about if they should do it again, because I think you can make a case, especially when you're doing something like Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes again. But holy, I'm somewhat at a loss for words here because of what he just accomplished.
Well, I mean, I can remember doing a piece when he was fighting Derek Brunson at Madison Square Garden and trying to talk to him about the it factor, and he was trying to define it for him. To me, I actually think that he finally really did that. I'm not kidding. Like, I know that I've kind of been one of the guys who's like, I don't know how transcendent he really is, even though he'd won the belt, and even though he'd defended it, 5 times or whatever it is, and he was doing these things. I was like, well, he's not, he's not Conor McGregor. You're comparing him to guys in the past who've come up and done it. But what you're always looking for, honestly, is when doubt seeps in the biggest possible way. We're talking about a mental fluctuation in just our projections of what we think is going to happen. That's us. We don't have the personal investment, the mental image of him getting beat, or the early stoppage that we've talked about. Any of that. We have none of this in our head. We don't have that kickboxing personal experience where you're winning a fight and then you lose. We don't have that. We're going back and forth on the mental side of it. What he was going through to get in there and to go through this and to keep his I feel like he was just unwavering. And that's really the thing, man. When you go in there and you're just unwavering and you're ready to stand in the pocket and return fire at the very moment when it looks like it could be the spiral again, right? He kind of got clipped with a knee inside there before he landed that big right hand and spelled the end. I mean, it's an incredible moment, and I think it's that transcendent moment. And I don't mean to get like you said, this is kind of fun because you have to jump on right away and put your emotions together. And I don't want to sound too crazy here, but I feel like we watched him actually do the thing that got him over on that leg, because I just feel like it was so personal. This felt like a guy was created to destroy him specifically. That's it. Nobody else, just him. For him to overcome that demon, have that speech, all that stuff. I'm kind of blown away, man, but I do think that this was that moment where you're like, when you said that right before we went on to, like, it's, having Izzy in this spot, having, seeing a guy, the importance of a guy like that in the spot, I see it 100%. I know it 100% what you're saying there. It's like to have a champion like that, it's huge, man.